Welcome back to some more off-season action. I have to re-record this, y'all. I just, for those that are not new, I just get stuff off my chest. I had to re-record this. This is my second time doing it, just because I need a new screen recorder. Because Streamlabs has lost their mind and completely changed everything. But anyway, that ain't the point. Today, we're talking about pass rush, one of my favorite subjects. Pass rush, anything D-line related. That's kind of my bread and butter when it comes to football. To be open and transparent, this all started from a conversation that I was having about Micah Parsons. And really, this isn't the first year I had this conversation, and Micah's not the first person I had the convo about, but talking about, the quality of these reps and, really grading a pass rusher. So for people that are returners, I say it all the time. It's not just what you do, it's how you do it that's more important. And when it comes to numbers, we know numbers don't tell the full story. And so this conversation about, how elite Micah is just kind of it goes in a similar direction each time. It's like if you turn on the tape, and I've watched some Micah tape, I'm like, if you turn on the tape, the actual film, you'll see that he's not doing what the other top guys are doing. And so that led me to this whole thing of like, okay, most people don't have access to the film. And almost all of them, even if they did, they wouldn't go watch it. So I'm like, I could watch the film, but how do I convey that in information in a way that people understand? So we do what we typically do: create a grading system with a numeric structure so that people can see kind of what's happening. And so what I did was I took all the players who had double-digit sacks, because people might, oh, what about Nick Bosa and this person, that person? Look, you gotta have some type of way to filter it out. Can't have everybody. Double-digit sacks is widely looked at as a metric of a quote-unquote good pass rusher, so that's what we did. So these are all the people with double-digit sacks this past season. And then from there, we went through each of their reps and gave it a grade, and then that's how we went. So the grades went like this. I basically looked at kind of what are the important parts and gave it a simple grading system to keep it, simple for this time around. And we went through it. So number one, you got, who are you going against? Beating Lane Johnson, Penei Sewell, that's not the same as being the third string left tackle or whatever. And so if you're going against an all-pro or pro bowler, you get 3 points. If it's a starter, 2 points, backup, 1, unblocked, none, because you're not going against nobody. So I know people will probably say, well, this starter is better than that guy. Look, it's not Madden. People don't have overalls, so we can't really compare any objective way other than the labels we have, which is all pro bowler, starter, blah, blah, blah. And so for me, to keep it simple, again, I could scale this up next year and probably will, but for the first year, I just want to keep it simple. So I put all pro bowler together. I know you're saying, well, all pro is better. Yes, we get that. We could scale it up another time. And then, so who you going against? Then we look at what you did in terms of the rep, how you win. And for me, going through the tape, I definitely could scale this up. There's a lot more nuance, but I'll start from the bottom. Sorry, don't know why that came here. And so you got number one, or at the bottom for 1 point, is a coverage sack, second effort sack. That means either, really what you see a lot is cleanup sacks. Somebody, the coverage was too good. The quarterback standing there forever, just starts running and someone chases them down. Or if your initial pass rush gets stopped and the play is still going, then you do another move to still get the sack. Like, that's basically a cover sack. So that's kind of 1 point because you didn't really win most of the time. Game stunts, blitzes, it depends. It's not every blitz. If it's something that kind of gets you open or gets you in a matchup, because not every stunt is going to leave you wide open. Sometimes you end up going against a blocker that you still got to beat, but if you stunt into a lineman, you got the advantage. He's off kilter. That's 2 points. Now, pure win, it could be a double team. Usually it's a one-on-one win. And again, I think I found some differences in pure wins, but to keep it simple, 3 points, 2 points, 1 point for that. Then we get some bonuses. You get quick pressure. NFL advanced stats look at quick pressure as 2.5 seconds or quicker. This is where some subjectivity comes in. I try to keep it around 3 seconds, but what I noticed is it can be different based on the pass drop. That's kind of what I look at, because if quarterback's doing a 3-step or a 1-step throw, within 3 seconds they can make a couple reads, so that's not necessarily quick pressure. Versus if they're doing a 5-step, 7-step drop, then yes, 3 seconds would be quick pressure. So you got to kind of, have nuance with that. But if you do get a quick pressure, that's 1 extra point. And if you get a double team, a true double team, not just a chip blocker or somebody put their hand on you, a real double team, you get 1 point again if you get a sack through that. So that's kind of what made up the grading system. And then you can see everybody's grades up top. So naturally, people are going to say, well, if you got more sacks, you're going to get more points. And for the most part, yes. But still, we look at the average, because that is the whole point, is you want to see on an average rep how quality is your pass rush. And so now we'll look at who our top rushers in the league were last year. So number 1, surprisingly, is Danielle Hunter from the Houston Texans with a 4.8, followed very closely by Trey Hendrickson, the sack leader, with a 4.7. And then there's a little bit of a drop off, but these are all the guys that were over a 4, which was kind of the cutoff point when looking at the numbers. As you can see, Danielle Hunter's total is way less than Trey Hendrickson, but that's why we look at the average, because if you are having quality reps in your short amount of time, then your average can be better than somebody with a lot more points than you. Even Trayvon Walker edged out Myles Garrett as well, and that might be a name that's surprising to people. But just in case y'all don't know, Danielle Hunter from the Texans, Trey Hendrickson from the Bengals, Trayvon Walker from the Jags, Myles Garrett from the Browns, Calvin Noy from the Ravens, Will Anderson also from the Texans, and Zach Seiler from the Dolphins. All right, so let's look at Danielle Hunter. So, and this is why I color-coded it as well, because when you look across any one player, visually you can kind of see what they were doing. So Danielle, you look across, you see a good amount of purple, and then you see 1 rep where it was kind of low tier. And so that's some pretty high points. Same thing with Trey Hendrickson. 1 rep that was low tier. Myles Garrett as well. 1 rep that was low tier. And Trayvon Walker, same thing. Whereas some guys, they got a lot of red because they got a lot of low tier reps. And so that's just kind of a quick visual. But we'll look at the full list. And so you can see how all the guys ranked. The lowest being Andrew Van Ginkel from the Vikings. So let me kind of tell you what I saw, my observations after doing this exercise and analysis. So you get a guy like Andrew Van Ginkel, where I kind of thought him and Jonathan Greenert from the Vikings would be a little lower based on the scheme. Now Grenard, how you say it, root to the good bros, my bad. But he got a lot more actual true one-on-one pass rush reps as like a true pass rusher, whereas Van Ginkel is more of a hybrid edge outside linebacker type guy. So Van Ginkel had just a lot of cleanup sacks. And when you get a cleanup sack like a spy or something, you don't get any points because no one's blocking you. So you get no points for the opponent. or you end up going up against a running back or tight end or whatever. So you get 1 point. So there's a lot of that. And then if you're just doing a cleanup sack, you get 1 point because you didn't really win a pass rush. So I think that's what kind of knocked. I wouldn't say knocked him down because that's just the reality of what he did. But that's why his score is kind of where he is. And I would say everybody really in this area below JJ Watt, that's what you saw a lot of. Leonard Williams, a ton of cleanup sacks. He gets a little bit of boost because he goes against some double teams, and a couple quick pressures here and there. Will McDonald, ton of cleanup sacks. Him and McDonald, same thing. Like a lot of cleanup sacks, but also some quick pressure wins, just here and there. Dante Fowler, he was used inside a lot and did a lot of stunts and everything. And so there's that. And Cooper's ton of cleanup too. That's kind of the story here. Nick Bonito has some cleanup sacks, but I tell you why he's up here is because he had the most quick pressures out of any of the players. And it's not easy to do from the edge, but it's possible. You're talking about one of the most explosive guys in the league right now, where he just flew past the tackle. The lineman had no chance, and sometimes even with a chip block had no chance to get him. He's around the corner like in less than 3 seconds. So he got a number of quick pressure bonuses. I think that's kind of one of the big differences too. So again, people look at these numbers. They say, oh, this guy's got this many sacks. Oh, you just think he's doing that every play or every game. Like, no, there's almost 100, some reps in a game, or plays at least. And so most of those pass plays, you're not getting a sack. And a lot of these guys go games without sacks. So obviously people game plan for them, but you got to realize like a couple things. Number one, most of the people on this list, they rack up sacks in like one game. And so you bunch them up, and it's kind of like a couple games of like 2-3 sacks, and that really helps your stats. So Hendrickson, for example, against the Raiders, I think he had like 3.5 sacks against them. Walker, he had almost half his sacks came against the Colts in 2 games, but same team, and you just kind of see that. And obviously you got a division opponent. If they don't got a good tackle or it's a bad matchup for them, you could expose that twice a year. So that type of stuff. So all these guys bunch up sacks. For the most part, it's not many guys that are like spreading their production over the course of the season. A lot of times it is like 3 or 4 games where they're getting multiple sacks, I should say. And then the other thing is you get a lot of points for going up against higher competition. I could count on one hand the number of reps I saw against an all-pro or pro bowler, and I could tell you none of them beat those guys. Now there's some reps where you get the points because of the quarterback. Either the quarterback is standing there at the top of the pocket, giving a good angle for the pass rusher, or if it's a coverage sack or the quarterback isn't seeing anything downfield, the lineman's back is to the quarterback. They don't know what's going on. They think the play's over. Quarterback is running around doing something, runs himself into a sack. And so depending on kind of how that happens, you could still get points for going up against that opponent. But I don't think anybody like beat a Pro Bowler or an All-Pro in terms of for sack. Like obviously you can find some reps where they probably won the block, but it's in terms of like just for these. So again, that was the criticism I labeled towards Micah Parsons. And to be honest, it's still true. But it's true widely for most of the players. I mean, you rack up some of these numbers against the bad tackles, and that's why you see some of these games where they just, again, it's 2-3 games where they bunch up a couple sacks. Now Micah, he's used pretty differently across the board, and he works a ton inside. So I haven't really seen him beat high tier tackles, and he usually is abusing interior guys. They use him a lot with the different stunts and things of that nature. Or they'll just line him up over the middle and all that. But I do got to apologize. And it's a weird apology because my conclusion is the same, but I don't know, maybe my tone is different. I've watched Micah Parsons before, and I've always said he was an elite athlete, but watching, 16 other people, in comparison, Micah Parsons is on a different level. Nick Bonito might be the only guy that has anywhere near that level of explosion. And Nick is more of a straight line explosion type of guy. Micah Parsons has supreme hip fluidity, movement ability, and burst. So he's a different type of guy when it comes to that. But as I've said many times before, I say it during draft time all the time. You evaluate a player in 3 different buckets for the most part. Your physical traits, your technique, and your football IQ. So while I've always said Micah is, an A+ in physical traits, that doesn't mean he's an A+ in the other categories. And I think people get that confused where it's like Micah has ability that others don't. True, physically, but that doesn't mean he matches up to the complete package of some of the top dogs. And so when I've put on the tape and when I've watched the games, I'm just like, and we're not even talking about the run game, and this exercise is purely pass rusher. He has those tools to get there, but I don't think he's there. That's always kind of been my argument, because people, obviously, they was like, this is next Lawrence Taylor. Then they're like, he's one of the best defenders in the league. I'm like, I'm not there. I'm just really not there. And we could go to the tape and talk about it, but I do have to give my respect. Like, Micah's definitely on a level where it pops off the screen, so I kind of get why people get trapped into that. But this is why we do those exercises. Each rep is not created equal. The way they use him and just the people he gets his stats against, it doesn't always equal up. So I mean, at the end of the day, the most valuable guys are the ones that have the ability to do those one-on-one matchups and go out there and win. I mean, it's no different than a receiver being able to beat a one-on-one in coverage. You can't be elite if you can't. If I could leave you out on the island against any cornerback and it's not a guarantee you're going to beat that guy, then it's hard to say that you're an elite guy. And that's how I feel as well about a pass rusher. So if you look at the guys, especially that are above 4, but if you look at the high-end guys, I'm telling you, especially like a Trayvon Walker, the reason he's up there is because he's always, at least this year, he always got sacks against starters. And that's big. Like, you're not beating backups, you're not beating tight ends or running backs. He's beating starting tackles and straight up rushes, not twisting and stunning. He's going one-on-one and he's winning. Obviously, Hendricks, Myles Garrett, Danielle Hunter, they all do that too. Van Noy probably would have been higher if the Ravens didn't use so many different stunts. But in his one-on-one matches, he destroyed people, so he scored pretty high. And then these guys all pretty much were in constant one-on-one matchups. And so when you're going against starters, you go on one-on-one and you winning, you're going to score high. And that's the common theme that I've seen here. Now, again, like I said, all of these guys are going against, non-top tier competition when they rack up these stats. But still, That's how we differentiate. It's a difference between a backup and a starter. That's all I can really say. So yeah, all sacks not created equal. Again, I could level this whole thing up next year, but for right now, I think it's a good baseline to kind of give you an idea of how you look at a pass rusher. And again, I always say how you do it is more important than what you do, because that gives you an idea of what's going to happen in the future. So if you're looking at, projecting for this year, I can tell you, and there's a reason why certain guys are always kind of in that top echelon. It's not just because magic, it's because you watch the tape and they do the things that elite players at their position do. And so, last thing is the Neil Hunter. I mean, you talk about foundational prospects in my scouting history. There's a handful of guys that really marked a shift in my thinking and approach to scouting. Daniil Hunter is arguably one of those guys. He came out in a time when I was very dead set on, you got to have a high level of technique or you're not gonna make it. And he was a height, weight, speed project that someone took a swing on. And up until that point, it was just not many people that I saw make that development. Much like how they said quarterbacks can improve accuracy, and Josh Allen was one of the more recent people we see really changes accuracy. Same thing, Daniil Hunter. I mean, gradually over time, he got better, and he now took all those physical tools and all those things that people were excited about, and added the technique, added all those things, and now look, I mean, highest graded pass rusher this year. Again, just kind of goes to show people like what that development track can mean for you. So there's that. There's probably some other things I could say about each individual person, but I'm not gonna drag it out. If you got questions, comments, go down in the comment section. Let me know what you think. Share it around, get this convo started, and thank you for listening.